Hi, Romaters. Here we are for science. I've got my dirt book again, and I'm outside. I wanted to show you these pages first from the book. It said plants aren't the only things that live in soil. Just 1 square foot of good forest soil can be home to as many as 300,000 different living things. That is such a huge number. Just one little portion of soil can have all of these creatures. Here's our mole friend again. It says critters such as insects, snakes, and moles live in the soil. Thousands of different microbes live there too. Microbes are living things that are too tiny to see without a microscope, so you might not even know that they're there. Okay, so now what I want to talk about specifically today is the worms. So I have a different book now called Wonderful Worms, so we can learn more about them. And we talked a little bit about worms yesterday. Wonderful Worms. Earthworms are fat and wiggly, like my fingers and toes. They live where it's cool and dark and damp, where roots spread out like underground trees. Worms feel sounds with their whole bodies. They feel thunder when I walk. Just imagine, right under your feet, a little worm is feeling the ground shake from your footsteps. They are wonderful diggers. They dig passageways and burrows. But they don't use shovels or fingers or toes. How do they do it? They eat their way through and move along. They stretch out long and thin and squeeze in short and fat. Stretch and squeeze, eat and dig, move and dig. Now there's a picture of what a real mole looks like. Let's get a little closer. They love to eat worms. Earthworms mix and turn the dirt as they dig and tunnel in the earth. See the salamander? They make the soil soft and airy so the roots of plants can breathe and grow. There's a snail. Worms don't have eyes or ears or a nose. They do have a mouth. And they need food just like I do. But they eat dirt and rotting leaves. Strawberry plants. They swallow tiny pieces, and inside the worms, the food changes. Cute bunny. When it comes out of their tail ends, it makes the earth rich, so plants can grow. Earthworms are my helpers, the underground gardeners. We work hard in the dirt in my garden, their home. And that's the end. And this has many different facts about wonderful worms. I'll just read a couple of facts. Do earthworms bite people? No, earthworms don't bite anyone because they don't have teeth. Why are earthworms so slimy? Their skin needs to be moist in order to breathe. That's because earthworms breathe through their skin. Also, moist skin makes it easier for earthworms to move through their burrows. If an earthworm dries out, it will die. That's why we have to be really careful that we don't leave that earthworm out. Needs to stay very covered with soil or moistness. Let's see if there's any others. You know, I don't know what questions you have about worms. There's a lot of really cool facts here. You can do some of your own research. But let me answer this one more question. If an earthworm breaks in two, does it really become two worms? Now, that's an interesting thing to consider because sometimes that happens accidentally. It says no, but if it breaks off close to the head or close to the tail, it won't die. Instead, it will grow another head or tail. However, the shorter broken piece won't grow into another whole worm. Isn't that fascinating? That if a worm gets a little piece of him cut off, it'll grow a new part. That's good to know. Okay, so now, do you remember my hole from yesterday? I've got my hole here, and what I did is I tried a new hole today. And let me show you what I found here in my new hole. It's similar. You know, in my yard, I've covered a lot of my airy ground with leaves, and that's made a nice habitat for the worms. I dug in this hole, and here's what I found. Okay, I'm gonna show you. Just be patient here. Look at this soil while I kind of spread these worms out. This is kind of interesting. Okay, look. I caught lots of worms. Look at how they're all tangled together there. You know, they weren't that way in the beginning. All the worms were separate. And now that they're in the box, here's another little clump. Now that they're in the box, they're all kind of clumped together. Maybe they really like each other. You know what's kind of interesting about my worms, is this is what I thought was interesting, is that they look probably to you right now like long worms. But when I compare these with worms, I'm going to move the camera even closer. When I compare these with worms that I've seen before, these are really small. Every worm I found this morning is kind of small and kind of gray. It made me wonder, where are the mommy and the daddy, the big ones? Where's the big worms? And I don't know what the answer is. Maybe they've all are, you know, those big fat ones that you see. Now here's a worm here. I'm going to hold it up to you. I'm going to be very careful. This worm here, can I find a way to show you this worm? He actually is stretching out pretty long. But see how skinny he is? He's not one of those big fat worms. Oops, sorry, worm. So I also found another one of those grubs. And you might find those too. See, that's definitely not a worm. You actually should know that a grub like this is actually a member of an insect family, as far as I know. Best I know that it's going to turn into something else. But let's just stick with our worms now. So here's the thing. You're going to be doing more work with worms. Tomorrow for science, I want you to make your own worm habitat. I will send you a link. You'll need a jar, a container, and some layers of soil so your worms will be happy. You don't want to put them somewhere where they won't stay moist and be happy. They need to dig down into the soil. And you can make your own observations and do your own research. My question is still, where are those big worms? If I go somewhere else, will I find bigger worms? Because all the worms so far, and like I said, to you right now, these may look big, but to me, they all look pretty skinny and small. So, I have a tip for you. I read somewhere that if you take a big piece of paper or a box, like this box, and you leave it overnight. Now, I'm going to dump my worms back in the ground now. I'm sorry, worms, I don't want you to be sad in this box. And then I am going to put the box down on the ground. And apparently, at night, what's going to happen is that box is going to make some shade and create a moist habitat for the worms to gather. And tomorrow morning you can check for them, because tomorrow's science you're going to need to have some worms. Okay? I think there's so much more we could say about worms. I'm kind of excited for you to do your own research. And go ahead today if you want to go do some more digging. But wait till tomorrow to keep your worms when you have a habitat. It'll tell you how to do that. And I hope you find other things too. Maybe you'll find some roly-polies or some millipedes, other fun things. Anyway, that's about all I have to say today for our worm unit. It's a little bit short. I'm looking here at the time. It's 10 minutes. That's kind of a short science lesson, but it's good for you to be out in your yard and do your own work, okay? So thanks a lot, and let me just end this with showing you some beautiful flowers here. Okay, these are the calendula flowers that I grow in my yard. When we start talking about plants, we'll talk a lot more about calendulas because they are such a happy, lovely flower. I have quite a few of them here because I just let them keep self-seeding and they grow all over the place. Aren't they pretty? Like little sunshines. Okay. All right. See you soon. Bye-bye.